everybody, and welcome to the Fireside chat. I'm your moderator today for this talk. My name's Akesha Reid, and today I'm joined by two incredible women. Firstly, we have Dr. Ateh, a multi-award-winning journalist, producer, director, influencer, and diversity advocate. Such a multi-hyphen.
Hello.
And we've got Jamelia Donaldson, the founder and CEO of Treasure Chest. Do you know what? I have to put my teeth in today. Okay. Treasure Chest. There we go. Which is Europe's largest monthly product discovery subscription service for women with kinky curly hair. And also, you're the co-creator of the Teen Experience.
Yes.
Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
So I would say that the power of beauty and cosmetics is undeniable. But over the years, Black people haven't always received the recognition for the vast amount that we contribute to the beauty space. And we're often left out of the spectrum of shades and marketing materials. However, as game-changing figures shake the boardroom tables nowadays, there's a tangible shift in the air. Would you agree? Yeah?
Absolutely.
So that's what we're going to discuss today. So my first question for you ladies is, I think it would be good to kick off with, what was your first beauty memory, and where did your interest begin?
You want me to kick off?
You kick off, Ateh.
Well, I'm a child of the 80s, so my mum was very, very glam. It was always kind of poisoned perfume and, the kind of perfumes that would waft down the stairs before she would arrive.
Yeah.
And it was red lipstick and really kind of like Dynasty and Dallas and high glamour and Alexis Carrington bitch shoulder pads and I just loved that. My mum was very, very glam, and she still is glamorous.
Yeah.
But I used to love watching MGM musicals and films from yesteryear and from the 1950s and 30s and 20s, and always like the contour of Marlene Dietrich with the light, and I just found it a fascinating, beautiful world. But on the flip side, it was always really sad because I never saw myself.
Yeah.
So it was always that kind of, so beauty for me has always been a pleasure pain, a paradise prison of somewhere where I could really be myself, I can express myself, but also it wasn't really reflected very much. But beauty, I've never not loved beauty. There's pictures of me too, with like palettes smearing makeup all over the place.
I love that.
It's just
like the glamour of beauty and the fun of beauty.
I think for me it's colour.
Yeah.
Colour and just transformation.
Amazing.
Two moments in time stick out for me.
Yeah.
The first one being when I was about 3 years old. We were on a family holiday in Jamaica, and my brother said to me, "Jam, should we play barbers?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Barbers.
And my hair was in plaits.
Stop it.
And then my brother had like cut out a plait in the middle of my hair. And then my mum went to do my hair, and my hair was like just falling out. And she was like, "What have you done, blah, blah, blah." And that was the first time that I realized that, wow, beauty actually has power, because ahead of then, I was just a tomboy. Like, I really did not care about anything beauty associated.
Yeah.
That was the first lesson, I think, in just how precious beauty is and how sensitive and how delicate it is, but then also how much it is tied to like femininity and like young girls and women. And then the second time was a not so positive experience, but I feel like I was about 11, 12, and I remember watching a lot of TV, and then that's when I had fallen in love at a really young age, but then I started to notice like makeup and fashion when I was a bit older. And I remember watching TV and then going upstairs and looking in the mirror and like hiding certain parts of my face to figure out what it was about these women that was so beautiful that I could find to match my face. Right. And there wasn't a lot. And I was like, oh, this is going to be weird.
Yeah.
So those two memories stick out for me the most.
It's funny you said about the barbering incident with your brother, because I think my first beauty memory is that I actually cut off. So I was at school. We finished like play time early, and our teacher was like, just like everyone just be quiet and like wait until everybody else has finished putting stuff away. And I was just kind of impatient, was just rocking up and down in my chair, probably borderline ADHD. And then we had scissors and we're cutting things. And I took a plait. Mum put my hair in plaits, and I just chopped it off and then held it. And my mum was freaking out. She was like, obviously, as you would.
Yeah.
But I just remember that taking so long to grow back. And I was just like, why? Like, if I cut, like, you know those Barbie heads things, like you could pull the hair back out. And I was just like, why is my hair not growing back like that? Like, what? I don't understand. And it made me like feel really self-conscious about this little tuft that was in the middle of my hair. And that's when I realized how like powerful hair and like the way that it makes you feel is.
My daughter, I have twin girls, and there were 2 or 3, and I heard, well, 3, and I heard giggling, and then snip, 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 with the little, you know, they have the child safety. I'm like, I don't even think it could cut paper properly, let alone hair.
Afro hair.
And then I remember freaking out, saying, you've got curly hair, that is 3 years of your life gone. And I said, that is 3 years of your life gone.
And there were 3 at the time.
And there were 3.
It's going to take you your whole life to grow them back.
This is like double your lifetime to grow back.
Yeah.
But, you know, we all freak out about it, but it's also a learned thing about how precious, like, they should be able to experiment with themselves or whatever, but like I think the negativity is what we've all learnt from our mothers about that preciousness as well. So it's really interesting. But I didn't want to give that to them.
But like, you like you had to internalize it.
It was very confronting. It was really, really, really confronting. I was like,
a similar thing. Sorry to cut you. A similar thing happened to me maybe 2 weeks ago. So every Wednesday I pick up my oldest niece from school, and I picked her up and I said, Maya, why is your hair so messy? And then I noticed that later on she kept putting her hood up, and I was like, why are you putting your hood up? And she was like, my hair. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, why did I say that?
Yeah.
Like now she's gonna think that her hair being messy is a bad thing, but really I was just like, did your dad do your hair? Because your mum doesn't do your hair like this.
It's so true.
But she felt, I could tell that she felt a bit self-conscious, and now I'm like having to do overtime to make it very clear that no, your hair's fine however it is. But it was just spur of the moment. I was shocked. I was like, oh, why is your hair so messy today?
Yeah.
But I just didn't think about it, and I felt so bad after.
It's words have impact, don't they?
Words have, I think that's why it's really important that we have to unlearn a lot of stuff.
Yes.
And the beauty industry is changing and being more visual about what is beautiful, what is acceptable.
Like kind of going into the beauty industry, I would love to know how you both got your start in the beauty industry. Maybe start with Jamelia this time.
Sure. My start in the beauty industry was very scrappy. As mentioned, I had loved hair since I was literally 4. My mum used to do my hair and I used to take it out and redo it myself because I didn't like how she done it. But then I just never saw a career in beauty because I didn't have any examples. My mum's a teacher, her mum was a teacher, and all of her friends are teachers. So for me and for her, she always thought that like education was the path that I was going to go down. So I kind of neglected it, and then around 18, 19, when I was in university, I took a placement year and I went to New York, and that's when I got introduced to marketing and PR, and I thought, oh, this is so interesting. It was fashion marketing and PR. I thought, that's not really my bag, but it's an interesting industry. Got back to the UK and I realized I needed to make money because I'd been interning for free for a year. So I got into...
You'll be that girl.
There we go. So I got into financial services, done a placement. That placement led to a grad scheme. But the whole time that I was there, I made it a priority to immerse myself in the beauty industry. So any natural hair events that were available, I was going. It was terrible. I was very nervous, very shy. But I used to force myself to go by myself because I realized that when I went to events with my friends, we didn't talk to anyone else. It was just us KKing in the background, in the corner, like having a great time. But I wasn't meeting anyone, so I used to make it my goal to like go to a different event once a week and meet someone new. And then I used to spend a lot of time in the States, which is where the natural hair community like really blew up. And that for me was a perfect demonstration of the fact that a career does exist in beauty, but in particular in Black beauty, and it can be really, really successful. So I used to, anytime I was going on holiday, it was a natural hair event. I used to take time off of work to go to natural hair events. So for me, it wasn't like I had experience and then I like found my feet. It was more I was always seeking it. And so I just kept putting myself in really uncomfortable positions and uncomfortable spaces, but just to make sure I was in the right environment to meet the right people and learn the right things.
Amazing. Ateh?
So I grew up loving beauty. I studied history at university. And when I graduated, no one tells you the good jobs, right? No one tells you.
They don't.
No one tells you the good jobs, but my mum gave me the best advice. Make your hobby your job, and you never feel like you're working. So I was like, okay, I love beauty, and I can bang out an essay. Like, is this a thing? I don't know. But like, I went to study a postgrad course for advertising because I thought that's the most arty, businessy thing I could think of.
Yeah.
Hated every minute of it. All I did for my homework was beauty campaigns, and everyone's like, why are you here? And I'm like, yeah, I know, why am I here? And so I left, and I've never left anything, and I was very lost for the first time in my life. And I went to work on the beauty counter because my friend, for Estee Lauder companies, because my friend had been working there, like, you know, money. And it was such a good experience because I was trained across all the brands, like under Estee Lauder companies. So I was like, I can bang out an essay, I'm working on counter, I'm talking to real women and men. I love beauty, so I called up InStyle magazine. They'd just launched in the UK, I think it was like 2001. I literally politely stalked my way on. I was like calling every day until they were like, oh, please stop calling and just come in, like whatever. And I had an amazing interview where the Chanel makeup discussed, and I was like, I'm with my tribe, I'm with my people. Then I worked there, and then I worked there for a year, and then I was asked to go to Tatler, and then I was at Tatler, and then I went freelance about 23, age 23, 24, and I haven't looked back really, so I just love this industry, but which is why I push and fight so it could be even better.
Yeah. And when did you first notice the bias in the industry? Like, as a beauty journalist, I'm often, and you probably are often, the only black beauty journalist at an event sometimes, or like you'll see another black person, you'll be like, hi.
Well, you know, when I started, I was the only brunette in the room, okay? let's not get it twisted.
Yeah.
I was like, there are 3 brunettes in the industry, let alone someone who, you know, it was,
Yeah, and when did you first notice the bias that was kind of there?
I mean, it was always there. My first interview at Vogue House, I went to the head of HR because you have to get the blessing before you can get in the building.
Wow.
And I was asked, look, you've got a history degree from Bristol, you went to a Catholic girls' school in Knightsbridge, you're really well educated, does that make you feel more white? That was my question in my, and then I was asked about gang warfare in South London as well. It was just like,
You're like, I'm not even from South London.
I'm not from South London.
I can answer that.
I grew up in Marble Arch and Mayfair.
Yeah.
I walk around the corner. I live around the corner. It was just ridiculous. Things are so much better, but what is any? And you know, we've had that the independent report about there. You know, there's no institutional racism in the UK. You know what? People try and get their head around it, but guess what? Institutions, businesses, companies, magazines are made up of people, and if people have unconscious bias, then there is an issue.
Definitely.
And you know, and I think there is, and so I've worked with amazing people who've really helped me and championed me, but I've also had the conversations where, oh, you know, back in the day, I remember putting forward the Sugar Babes, like when they were, I was like, oh, you know, I know the manager of the Sugar Babes, they want to be on the cover of your magazine. Can we have the white one? I've had those conversations.
Right.
What, you don't want Keisha Mutia? No, can we just have the white one? I've had decades of that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you know, and I just play dumb. I don't understand. They're a girl band. Do you really think that's?
Yeah.
I don't
You need
understand.
3.
You would, don't, you know, they come as a package, and you know, just like people wanting to cut black models' fees. Oh, offer her half.
Yeah.
And it's been really, it's just, yeah. There's been
It's just been
hundreds of examples.
constant throughout.
Yeah.
For sure. And Jamelia, how have you found it, like working on the marketing and PR side as well, and as you started up your company?
I think I was really confused. I definitely entered with unrealistic expectations because in my mind, there's Birchbox, there's Glossybox. They do a great job of catering to their target demographic. And now I'm building something similar, except my target demographic is black women. So when I started speaking to brands, I was really thrown off when they kept saying things like, we don't have budget, we don't do sampling, but I've seen you do it.
Yeah.
And I've seen you do it for white women, so why
don't have
can't you do
budget
it
for
for
you?
black women? There we go.
Yeah, it's almost like a bracket.
Yeah, and then it's like, I think what's interesting is now it's starting to change where black women are becoming the focus, but then the drawback is the budget's still not there. So now you're focusing on black women, but you're still not investing in black women.
Yeah.
And that looks like investing in the black consumer, but then also investing in black professionals who know the space well and will make sure that you execute properly. So it's been a confusing time because I know how much brands spend on marketing, but I just think it's very interesting that your focus can shift, but your budget doesn't, to then reflect how much you want to gain from the black consumer.
Because then it's like then it all comes back to consumerism, and doesn't it? Because it's like, well, you want to profit off of, you know, showing that, but you don't want to, like, put wealth into the community, which is fundamentally how you help inequality. What about with the natural hair side of things? Like, what's the biggest hurdle you think you've had to overcome with the natural hair marketing, or like helping in that sort of range?
The biggest hurdle in the natural hair market is, wow, got my ring stuck in my hair. The biggest hurdle is proving that black British women actually exist and are actually worth investing in. So the first problem is proving that black women are worth investing in, right? Then we overcome that hurdle, and then the only black women that are worth investing in are African American women. And then I'm telling brands like, no, the black British woman and the African American woman, they look the same, but they're completely different. So treat them differently and invest accordingly. So it's proven that black British women, one, exist, because when I was going to natural hair shows maybe 5 years ago, they're saying, oh my God, there's black women in Britain. Like, we're still having that conversation. And then it's like, no, they're also worth investing a lot more. And it's also like, oh, and by the way, not all black British women are mixed race. Like, there's actually black women.
There's so many layers, because then there's a layer of like colorism that you have to tackle as well.
It just keeps going.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your fight.
No, we've got to thank people like Ateh, because without her, we wouldn't even be able to be in the room. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you know what? It's team effort, and I think all of our voices together make a difference, and having these conversations make a difference.
Yeah.
But it's painful.
Yeah.
It is really painful and basic, having basic conversations. I was speaking, like, throughout my career, I remember speaking to all these marketing directors going, why don't you have a shade for me? And they're like, oh, we're doing research. I'm like, save your money. There's black women in the UK and men who want to look fabulous, you know?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I think that's such a good point as well with the shade stuff, because I remember one of the things that is, I hate using the word triggered, because I feel like it's just overused now, but one thing I remember, my first beauty memory with buying makeup, was that I could find a shade for me, but they were always orange. And I was like, well, I'm kind of orangey undertone, but like, my sister's like so neutral, and then my other sister's really cool. Why is it there's one shade and then that shade is always orange? And I just remember being like, this isn't fair. Like, that's not fair.
I'm sorting it.
Yes.
I'm sorting it. I've got my makeup range coming, because it's like, it's a very basic way of thinking, and also, just because you have a darker skin tone, you're automatically warm.
Yeah, that's
Like,
what I mean.
I prefer cooler shades on me, or you're automatically this or that. And it's really reflective of how people think of us, and like the low value of catering to people's needs.
Yeah.
Beauty just reflects society and people's status. And you going in and not being able to find something for yourself is because you don't matter to these brands.
Exactly.
And your money doesn't matter.
Even something as nuanced as like the fact that most of the time when you look at shade ranges, the lightest shade is always like number 1, and the darkest shades will be like number 10 or whatever. And I remember seeing the brand Beauty Bakery in America, where the darkest shade is number 1. And like something so small, you're just like, oh my God, I wouldn't even have looked at that. I wouldn't have ever thought that I would be a number 1 or a number 2.
It's status.
And it feels like if you're always used to being the first person, or like that's thought of, you wouldn't think to put yourself at the end, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with someone who said that their friend said, oh, I don't like it when they turn the numbers around as well. Like, that's the default. Me being number 1 is the default. I don't like it when they do that because I don't know my position. I was like, we're not talking about makeup anymore, I'm a child. Like, no. But then it's that thing, it's like subverting it.
Yeah,
It's like, I don't know my position anymore. I don't know my number anymore.
Exactly.
And I'm like, it is so much more than just makeup. It's about power and who you are and where you fit in. And I think beauty is for everybody. Everyone. It's not about winners and losers. It's about let's all have fun at the party.
Yeah.
Have fun, being the most important thing.
Fun.
But then that translates directly into the hair care industry, right? Because the typing system, 1, 2, 3, 4, we just refuse to use it. Like at Treasure Chest, we do not use typing because I don't believe in it, and I just don't believe in it. And I also, as you said, I don't like the hierarchy of it. Like there's a clear hierarchy already, but now that we've tied numbers to it, it's even more obvious.
Yeah.
I just don't like it.
And I think that it's funny as well because that system was created by a black man. So it's not even always outside of the community. Sometimes because it's so subconscious, it's within as well that we have to kind of
I completely agree with you. I'm mixed because growing up, all I heard was your hair's bush, which was like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like your hair's just messy and bush. That was what I had. So it was quite liberating to be like, oh, there's
other bush people.
Yeah. Or, oh, that's actually a 3/8 curl. It wasn't just like hot mess, you know? So for me, that was really, it was something like, oh my goodness. But then the other side of it, which you're completely, it's like, you know, I was having this conversation with someone else, and, you know, people with straight hair don't go, oh, I'm a type 1.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
You don't, like, it's from
They're
3 down.
normal,
People have got, my husband who's got wavy hair doesn't say I'm a 2B, you know? So I get it, but then, so I don't know, it's like a stabilizer. It's useful.
I think it's a nice entry
throw
point.
them away.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's hard, but I completely agree with you.
What do you think, this isn't a part of my questions, but I would love to know your opinion. What do you think about brands now refusing to use anything but like textured hair? So they won't say like Afro-Caribbean hair. They refuse to put like a race onto something. It will be textured hair or straight hair, curly hair. How do you feel about that?
I've had conversations with stylists who say, everyone has textured hair. That offends me as well.
Yeah.
It's also othering me.
Yeah.
Who doesn't have a texture?
Yeah.
So, but then I grew up with like Afro hair.
Yeah.
But then
But so many brands don't want to use the term.
I know.
And I'm like, but I like saying Afro hair. Like to me, that's not negative. I am Afro-Caribbean.
Yeah.
And it's like, and Asian people have specific type of hair as well. And, you know, mixed ethnicities will then have Julian textures. So to me personally, I don't get offended by saying Afro hair. But
I don't get offended either.
Yeah, but I think some people do.
I don't get offended, and until you asked that question, I hadn't really put much thought towards it, other than when I speak to brands who are emerging or up and coming, and they want to get their products sold in major retailers, and they're told to change the language. So I've spoken to 2 brands who have been directed to remove Africa out their name, otherwise they won't be put on the shelves.
That's
and both
disgusting.
have
I've done
refused.
consultancy for brands where it's like, well, we want to sell to more than just black women. And if someone that has, you know, tighter curly hair that is European saw our product, they wouldn't think it's for them. And I'm like,
They will still use
they
it.
will still use it if you use the right marketing language. But this is what brings me to my next point. Ateh, how do you, like, I know you do a lot of consultancy with brands as well for years. How do you think that language, like how important is that language, and what do you think needs to change with that in marketing materials?
Language is everything.
Yeah.
It's so important. And I mean, I've always done consultancy, but last year with Black Lives Matters and George Floyd's murder, it's just gone like, everyone's like, whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and you had everyone from being very cynical, like, we just got to get through this until it gets back to normal, to we want to make a change, we want to learn and grow, and everyone in between. And, you know, I'm not messing around anymore. I'm just like, why isn't there people who look like me in this campaign? Why isn't, you know, and also that kind of, you always see the Rihanna, Beyonce girl with her loose curl in campaigns, and I'm just like, I'm not having that, and language and tame and wild and unleashed, like your hair is animalistic and bestial. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not having it. And I was working with Keristas this year, and you know what? I don't know if I made people cry, but I went in and they were so responsive, and I was like, I said, whatever you do, I'm so fed up. I never see anyone who looks like me, anyone with 4C hair or tightly coiled hair. It's just, and I just was like, I put myself forward, they put me in the campaign. So I was like, good on you, Keristas. You know what I mean? And I've never, and I've had such a great response, but it's also the visual has to change.
Yeah.
Like, you literally need to put your money where your mouth is. If this is for everybody, it's about representation. Language is important, but I also think visibility and my picture being everywhere is triggering so much trolling, so much racial abuse, which I'm just like, good. It shows what we are all talking about, and it also shows
I
why
don't read
it's
the comments because I'm in the same campaign. I'm like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
People are like, it's
Great,
quite...
thanks, Ateh. I don't want to know.
Yeah, well, you know what? My Guardian picture, I did a piece for The Guardian, I did a photo shoot, and I actually had to screenshot it and put it on my Instagram.
I saw that post.
It was just ridiculous. They're like, I don't appreciate having black faces shoved down my throat. They're a minority. It should be in accordance to like the numbers and then quoting percentages.
It's just, I find it so insane with social media how vocal people feel like they can be, because come and say that to my face.
Or don't.
Maybe that's maybe
Or don't,
maybe
because
that's
you're
the selfie
crazy.
funding. But like I'm saying, it makes people feel the freedom of being behind your phone. It gives people the courage, like misplaced courage, really. Like
The keyboard warriors, they call it.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you for showing the example of what 21st century racism in the UK looks like.
And that why we're still so far away from.
Because people, I think a lot of people don't really believe there's an issue.
No, of course.
I'm so shocked when I see certain comments. I'm like, wow, people like that really exist. And like, they really sat down and decided to type that and press enter.
And it's not just like, because if you go onto like a troll account, sometimes it'd be like the one post and it's just a troll account. But sometimes it's like big people with like...
As we've seen time and time again.
Yeah.
It's shocking. It's sad, but we will get there.
Yeah.
One conversation at a time, and I really believe people are good and kind, and I love this country, and I really believe that people want change, and for it, you know, it's that thing of like, well, I'm okay, so everything's okay. Well, it's not okay for a lot of people. So
that goes back to the subverting of the numbers. Like it's like if I'm okay, I'm always number one. So if things are shifted, I'm threatened. It's like that shouldn't threaten you. That should encourage you that things are, you know, starting to balance out. How do you think that the beauty space, particular, is changing? Like, what changes have you seen, especially since last year with Black Lives Matter protests? And how do you think it's changing? Or do you think it's changing?
I'm gonna have to think about this one.
Okay.
do you think people are more eager to do business with you? Or you're taking, for me, it's people will take meetings with me when a couple of years ago they're like...
Oh, yes, that was yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got my answer now. So April, we had been reaching out to brands for years, no response. The brands came to us, took meetings with brands the year before and they were acting like they were doing us a favor. Now they're like my besties. So I feel like the power dynamics have somewhat changed, but for me it's always a question of how long is this going to last. But then again it comes back to investment, like, okay, you want to have these conversations, like how much are you willing to pay to have the conversations? How much are you willing to pay to actually impart the change that you want to see? And okay, you want to do these shoots with women with natural hair, but who's going to be doing their hair? Because we've sent influencers that we work with to shoots and they've had their hair wrecked because someone's decided to blow dry their hair and then tong it curly and she came with a wash and go. Why are you doing that? So it's like, okay, you want to do it, but can you just do it properly? And can you accept that it's not going to be white people that are going to be executing it on behalf? You're going to have to employ black people. You're going to have to contract black people to do it properly so that everyone feels comfortable and no one's offended when it actually comes out. 100%. So yeah, the power dynamics have definitely shifted. I'm keen to see how long they last, but I think the main lesson is that like you're going to have to buy your way out of this. You're going to have to invest your way out of the mess that has been created in the beauty industry already to make sure that you see authentic, long-lasting and impactful change. Yeah, and Ateh, how do you feel about the change or the shift? Like, is it the same for you? Have you had brands now come to, because you do so much, like I feel like I see you everywhere. Like, no, in a good way, like you have had so many great deals since, I think, and I would love to know, like, do you think that the change is gonna stick? If you don't, like, what do you think needs to happen for the shift to stick?
It's really interesting because I think a lot of people behind closed doors, when you have conversations, know that the door has been kicked open a bit, but I think secretly everyone's waiting for it to close again. And I think that has stopped people for years saying what they really think, because you won't have a career if you say exactly what you think, because people, there's no consequences. But I think with Black Lives Matters, with COVID, I think with George Floyd's murder, the whole world is kind of seeing what's really going down, and people have more confidence to speak up and to to make a change. I'm really hopeful. I think once the genie's come out of the bottle, I don't think it can go back in again.
Right.
And I think this isn't, you know, we've seen this time and time again. Like, I'm a child of the 80s. I remember Rodney King being beaten up on people filming it on like a camcorder. We have seen violence towards black men and women for centuries, for decades.
Yeah.
But the difference is everyone is suffering in a way they never suffered before. So I think with COVID, everyone's at home, everyone can really sit and focus and not be distracted. And everyone, I always say everyone knows what it feels like to be black now, because they've had restrictions on them, invisible barriers, which they've never had before.
Interesting.
You know, it's like, do you remember when everyone had just an hour exercise? Do you remember those, like, when you say it out loud, I can't, but like the twitching of the curtains and people watching each other,
Yeah.
I was like, hello, that's a microaggression. I get that all the time, just walking down the road.
Yeah.
Like, can I help you? You know, like, yes, I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
So people have a sense of, oh my God, that doesn't feel very comfortable. And then if someone talks about microaggressions and things like that, there's you can build a bridge of empathy, and I think that's the difference. So I'm really hoping the empathy and the loss and the pain and the unfairness of COVID, because guess what? Racism is really unfair, right?
Yeah.
I'm a good person, you're a good person, you're a good person, but all this crap has been put on me based on external circumstances.
Right.
And I think deep down people think, if I work really hard and I'm really good, then good things will happen. And they're realizing that's not real life. You can be good, work really hard, and have tragedy and have horrible things happen.
Yeah.
And I think that is the difference why things will be different. I hope.
Yeah.
And also all three of us, we're not going to be quiet, are we?
For me, I think that the change will stick, but it will take a while. And I think that so many brands want a quick fix. They want to put like a black person on their Instagram feed and then be like, look, we're doing really good. But actually, the change comes from within. Until we have people that are permanently in boardrooms and marketing directors and creative directors that hire black staff below them as well and are also black in the boardrooms, I think that's when the change will actually stick. Like,
And that's probably a generation, right?
Exactly.
Or two, I'm hoping.
I feel like Generation Alpha are going to come and just kick the door open even
Yeah.
further. We spoke a little bit about social media, and how it can be quite negative and trolly. But what about like the positives of social media? Like, what have you seen positively come from the last year when it comes to bias in beauty? If anything, like, you don't have to.
Oh, I think it's been incredible.
Yeah.
You don't need permission anymore. So, you know, in the beginning of my career, when I started my career, I remember getting an email and going, this will never catch on. That's how long. You know, the internet we didn't have the internet. It's like people were faxing and there was no digital film. People were on Polaroid. So it's like, you know, it's only 20-something years ago, but like it's still a lifetime ago. And you just don't need permission in the same way. Can I please write an article about curly hair? No, it's not glamorous or luxurious enough. That's what I'd be told.
Yeah.
Now I just stick it on my Instagram and then I have how many likes. You can, as an influencer, you can have more power and pull than a magazine
100%.
with trackable numbers, more than just an ad in a magazine, you know.
Which no one knows the figures behind.
Exactly,
and who's
so
actually
that's power, and you can take that literally to a brand or to a factory and say there's an audience. I think, you know, I went natural with my hair in 2015 and social media had a massive impact. I was like, I'm a beauty journalist and I do not know what the hell is going on because I have not had any business with my hair since I was 8 years old, okay? 8 to 37, I just chemically relaxed my hair.
Wow.
So at 37, I was like, I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm a beauty journalist. So I was looking online and seeing all these women in Atlanta in their bathrooms, people doing their own like DIY recipes. And it was like so healing, you know? And I'm writing a book, Coils and Curls, The Ultimate Guide to Loving Your Hair. And it's about that healing journey, and social media was huge for me. Putting the dots back together. And people talking to each other. It was like having 1,000 aunties. You know?
It's a community.
It was a community. And that is social media at its very best, right?
I agree. I feel the same. I was relaxed 12 to 25.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I got to write about like getting braids for the first time for Cosmopolitan, and I remember like looking on YouTube for all these like tips on how to because I was scared that it was going to irritate my scalp and like doing acid cider vinegar rinses and stuff. And I'm like, I would never have known this because my sisters at the time weren't natural, neither was my mum. So I kind of was just like, who do I ask? Like, I'm not going to ask my hairdresser who normally relaxes my hair, and I'm not going to go to anymore.
Yeah.
So I've always found it a safe space in a certain sense as well. What about you, Jamelia?
I completely agree. Treasure Tress literally was launched on Instagram. I got my inspiration for Treasure Tress from Instagram, and it started with just reposting images of women with natural hair, because I remember Googling, why doesn't black hair grow? Because I was straightening my hair. I was never allowed to relax it, but I was straightening my hair for between 12 to about 12 to about 17 realistically, and my hair never surpassed this length. And I was like, what is going on? Like, why doesn't black hair grow? I just wanted the answer, right?
Mr. Google.
And then I stumbled across all of these forums like Black Girl Long Hair, Keep It Simple Sister. There were all of these like really old school American blogs with these black women in America with their hair down their backs. And I was like, I know the water here in America is different, but it can't be that different. Like, surely I can get close. And then that led me onto a path of like all of, as you said, like the DIY recipes, the products, and then that's what got me into like bringing products over from the US. And then that's when Treasure Tress hit, because I was like, I'm not paying £80 to import American products anymore. It's got to come to an end. So that was really powerful. But I think what I've really loved about the past year has been the rise of the underdog, because I felt like social media is a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place for community, but beauty standards are stronger than ever on social media, right?
Definitely.
Like, there's a lot of talk of the Instagram face, to the point where people are getting plastic surgery to emulate the filters on Instagram and to get the perfect proportions of whatever
I didn't know this, that people take a picture with them with a filter on to a surgeon and say, I want to look like this version of me.
Yeah.
It's quite disturbing, isn't
It's
it?
crazy.
It's slightly mental health concern. But that made me feel like, okay, it is great, but I can see how it can be toxic, and I can see that I need to sometimes step away just to breathe. But then you see like these everyday black girls who overnight have just blown up because they're talented. Like, it doesn't matter that they're recording in their messy bedroom or in their parents' bathroom. It doesn't matter where they are, but they're talented. They start a craze, it goes viral, they go viral, then they blow up, and I just love seeing that. So I think the rise of the underdog over the past year has been epic.
And you both have and are in the process of creating your brands, and you've obviously got your brand, Jamelia, but what has the process been like, and what are your hopes for your customers now, like when it comes to beauty bias and moving forward?
For me, it's been such a long, hard, battling process. So I mean, if you want to take it back, I would have loved to have done my own beauty brand in my 20s, but I listened to the negative noise.
Right.
It's not for you. That's not an arena for you. You can't do that. No. And then, I'm in my 40s now, and literally like a magic button, the minute you hit 40, my mum was like, you give zero fucks, and she was right. And then especially with what's happened last year. But I mean, for the past 4 years, I've been trying really hard. I've been speaking to so many chemists who say things like, there's no market for what you're doing for black men and women. They don't have the money to buy at your price point. They don't appreciate like natural or organic ingredients. So much nonsense. Also, I've been searching for true brown because it seems really basic, but most of the people who are making foundations, they add black, red, orange. And I'm like, there's no black in my skin. That's why it always looks weird. Or they add a bit of white. It just doesn't, it's not right. And I'm like, if it's in nature, then I think we can find it. And I've had people go, no, you can't fight the color wheel. That's not how it's done. This is how it's done. And, I've been doing this for 30 years. And people say,
That's my least favourite thing, when people say they've been doing it for X amount of years, because I'm like, okay, well, you need change then.
Well, you've been doing it for 30 years wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing's working, so we need change.
Don't show off about that.
Yeah.
So it's been pushing, and usually they're all middle-aged men telling me this. And there's been sprinkles of sexism, sprinkles of racism, sometimes both in the same cake, and it's been very distasteful. And it's pushing through that noise to get it done. And you know what, like you were saying, people who big manufacturers wouldn't have meetings with me. They'd say things like, it's going to be very expensive, you know that, right?
As if you can't afford it.
As if this is not a game for me to play in. And then these same people are like, oh yes, let's have a meeting post Black Lives Matter. So it's been a very interesting journey. People have been very kind. I've had angels along the way who've just like, you can do this, and a lot of support. But it's been a really rocky road, and we're almost there now. So I've found partners who I'm working with, who get it, who are my same vibe, and who just want to do something different and new, and understand that it's more than skin deep. This is like, for me, it's like beauty activism, okay? This is like a political statement, being able to cater for everybody and for everyone to have a good time and have fun. So it's been very challenging, but I think it will be very rewarding, and it's about making people feel good about themselves. It's acceptance and making, if I can make someone feel amazing and have fun and love themselves, that for me is my purpose.
And that's what beauty should be about. I feel like, we're going to have to wrap this up now. So this is my last question. What are your hopes for Generation Alpha? We spoke a bit about how they're the ones to watch. Like, I feel like millennials, Gen Z even, we're all in our 20s, 30s, 40s now. Generation Alpha, what are your hopes for them and beauty, like the beauty industry?
I can see it already, but I just want beauty to be fun, and I want Black women to have the freedom to enjoy and experiment with beauty. Something that is raised often on panels that I actually thought was going to come up today is like the debate about like, should Black women wear wigs, weaves, should we relax, should we straighten? And my answer is always Black women should do what they want because it should be fun. Like,
well, look
why
at us
can't
today.
we?
Like, we've all like,
so varied.
The versatility of black hair is amazing. Let us do whatever we want with it, and don't always comment.
Please.
Unless it's to say what works.
But I just want, like, very rarely do Black women, Black girls in particular, just have complete liberation to just be who they want to be and do what they want to do. So I can feel it, and I know that it's coming, that beauty is just going to become a playground where anyone can participate and show up how the hell they like without constantly being monitored, someone always commenting and waiting for approval. I don't feel like the next generation's waiting for approval from anyone.
I mean,
Your daughters are.
I've got literally, I'm raising
You're
Gen
raising
Alpha,
them.
and it's going to be fine. They're fabulous.
I can't wait till we're old and they're like the prime ministers and stuff. Do you know what I mean? I feel like they're going to be fine.
So my girls are 10 at the end of the month, and if I'm going to be honest, I think it's going to be their kids.
Really?
Because even my girls are just like, they're having that noise of like people say, oh, your hair's really curly like a sheep, and
Gosh, is that but the countryside? I'm like
But you know what? I grew up in central London, and I was always the black one. And people spoke that nonsense to me too.
Gosh.
So I reckon it will be their kids. So I mean, the battle for their little self-esteem rumbles on. At age 3, they told me, this is why I went natural with my hair. They said, Mum, it's such a shame. There were 3. We can't be princesses. It's because, we don't have yellow straight hair. I said, excuse me? I was like, okay, let's just part the princess, because you can be a doctor, a lawyer, and a princess if you want. But you can be anything you want to be. That's ridiculous. And they said, no, we've got curly brown hair. We can only be maids. So that was the message they had got in my home, age 3, from the outside world, from the cartoons they're watching, from the colouring books, all the things that noise was telling them. So I was like, I've got to be a better example. So I went natural with my hair, and I'm like, this is what it looks like to be on the British Beauty Council. This is what it looks like to be in Kerastaf's campaign with you. It's like, you have to be the example. You have to show up. I think it's going to be okay. I think it's probably their children, but I think they understand what we're going through and what we've had to fight for. And I think we stand on the shoulders of all the people who came before us. It's such a huge responsibility. People who are marching at Selma just for us to be here. We're doing our bit. Our girls and boys will do their bit. And then hopefully my grandbabies will be like, do you remember when you used to do those panels? Isn't that ridiculous? I'm like, yeah. It's really ridiculous. So that's what I'm thinking. Maybe when I'm a granny.
Yeah. I love the saying. I don't know who first said the saying, but that we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. And I'm like, to me, that's why
Yeah.
striving for change, you know? Like, this is
Yeah.
why we will continue to push on. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you guys for watching and at home, and we'll see you soon. Bye.